Hi, my name is Elizabeth Green, and today I'd like to talk with you about developing family traditions. And to start, I'd like to tell you about a story about my brother and his wife, Rod and Cindy, and their family. When their kids were young, every year Cindy would make a cheese ball for Thanksgiving. And year after year, she made this cheese ball as an appetizer served with crackers right before their main meal. And the kids did not eat the cheese ball at all, they didn't touch it. And so one year, Cindy decided not to make the cheese ball. And Thanksgiving Day came, and it became time for the appetizers, the cheese and crackers around this cheese ball, and there was no cheese ball. And the kids freaked out. They're like, "Mom, where is the cheese ball?" And she said, "Well, guys, you didn't eat the cheese ball. Year after year, you don't eat the cheese ball, and so I quit making it." They said, "Mom, you can't quit making it. The cheese ball is a tradition at Thanksgiving." And so the following year, the cheese ball was back on the menu and a tradition had been born. Well, why should we have family traditions anyway? What's the point and what's the purpose of developing family traditions? Well, they do a couple things for us. First of all, they bond you together as a family. And they're things that you as a family share in common. And that's really, really important because it gives you a sense of family identity. For us, it's like, we're the Greens. This is what we do. It's our identity. They're also memory makers. If year after year you have a memory that you're making together, it's the kind of thing where people look back on with nostalgia back to their childhood and they remember the things that they did together as a family. It can also bring the older kids home when they've grown. They think back of what Christmas was like around mom's table or those traditions that they did, and they're drawn back home. As a mom of teenagers who are on the cusp of leaving, I want family traditions that my kids enjoy that will draw them back home as they get older and as they move on. So what kind of family traditions can we create? I want to share 5 ways that you can create family traditions in your home. The first one I'm going to start with is vacations. Now, vacations don't have to be a $10,000 trip to the Caribbean or a big expensive trip to Disney World. They can be much simpler than that. My husband looks back on family vacations that his family took to Nags Head, North Carolina. His grandfather and his uncle, by their own hands, built a house right on the ocean. And his family and his cousin's family would gather for 2 weeks every year at his grandfather's house. They would swim in the ocean, they would fish by the pier. One of the biggest traditions, though, that they did is they bought blue crab, and they would put paper all over their newspaper all over their table. And they would sit for hours with the steamed blue crab, and they would take apart the crab and they would eat their crab. It was an afternoon experience. Every time my husband gets together with his siblings, someone talks about that vacation. And what did it cost them? Just the drive to Nags Head, and then they stayed with their grandfather. It was not an expensive vacation, but it was a memory maker for them. And it binds those siblings together even today. For my family, I drove from Wisconsin to Virginia every year to visit my grandfather. Every year at spring break, we just knew we were going to spend a week at my grandfather's house. I loved it because we left winter and went to spring for that week in March and April. And that was a fun tradition that we did as we were exploring around my grandfather's house in Virginia. One thing that we did is we always stopped in Breezeway, Pennsylvania. It's nothing, it's an interchange, but at that interchange there was a donut shop, and my mom, who is a health nut, would buy us a powdered donut for breakfast. And that was like a big deal for us. And we still remember stopping in Breezeway, Pennsylvania and getting that sugar donut on our way to our grandfather's. My friends, every summer they go camping. They do a weekend camping trip with their extended family. They all get together, they find a fun place to go, they relax, they swim, they fish. It doesn't have to be expensive, but something that you can fit into the rhythm of your life year after year is a wonderful family tradition to do. Some of our friends, the grandparents decided they wanted to have cousins camp every year. So they told the parents, you don't have to come. We're gonna have cousins camp, and we'll do something fun for 3 days. We'll do nature walks. They lived on a big farm. So they said, we'll do nature walks on the farm. One day we'll take the kids to a zoo. We'll do campfires at night. And so that kind of thing, you know, those cousins are gonna remember cousins camp at their grandparents' farm year on year, and the memories that they made together. They could also be simple things as day trips. They don't have to be big, long, week-long vacations. It could be a day trip hiking, or a day trip to the lake, or a day trip to the shore, a day trip to the mountains. Wherever you live, they could be something that your kids look forward to doing. When we lived in the Pittsburgh area, there was a place where we could hike about 30 minutes from our home. It was on a stream, and you could jump off these rocks into the water. We took our dog, and we probably went once a season, spring, summer, and fall. When guests came to visit us, when grandparents came to visit us, it was a beautiful place to go hike. And I know that we will look back on those times when we were able to go hiking there. So any kind of vacation, any kind of day trip that you can do is a great way to begin to build these family traditions. Meals is a second way that you can build family traditions. Every Christmas, every Easter, every Thanksgiving, we tend to have the same meal on those holidays. And within each holiday, we begin to build a tradition. Everyone knows what to expect. They have their favorite dish that they love to eat. And so that is a fun way to do it. You could do it on Valentine's Day. You could also do a fun tradition around Valentine's Day with a meal on Valentine's Day with strawberries and that kind of thing. On my family, growing up, every Saturday morning was homemade waffles or homemade pancakes. My dad would get out the waffle iron, and my mom would mix up this batch, and we knew for years that that's what Saturday morning was like. My parents would sleep in a little bit, we would watch cartoons, and then we would have these delicious pancakes or waffles every Saturday morning. Some of our friends have Sunday night pizza night. It's either Sunday night pizza and movie night, or it's Sunday night pizza and game night. So again, just finding a day of the week to have a certain meal and a certain family activity is a way to develop family traditions in your home. So we've got vacations, we've got meals, birthdays and special events are the third way that you can develop family traditions. I love to celebrate birthdays and special events with the red You Are Special plate. You can order it online, and this has been really great for our family. I didn't realize how powerful this You Are Special plate was until I had young kids, and we pull it out if someone has a piano recital, if someone has an ice skating competition, if someone just had a great soccer tournament, whatever it is, we pull out the You Are Special plate. But we don't always pull it out to celebrate. If someone has a really hard day sometime, if they have a setback, we might pull out the You Are Special plate too, to just let them know, hey, we're in your corner, we're cheering for you, no matter what, you are special. And I didn't realize how great this plate would be until when my kids were young. I asked my brother and his wife, their kids were older and moving out of the house, and I said, hey, can I borrow your guys' You Are Special plate? That way I won't have to buy one. And they said, you know what? We're still using it. Occasionally, if the kids come home, we'll pull it out for some reason. We still use it on birthdays to celebrate. And so we're not ready to give it away. And I realized, wow, this is powerful. Even as the kids are getting older, they still pull it out. It's something that's really been woven into the family heritage of their family. So we love that You Are Special plate. For birthdays, sometimes families go out to dinner on someone's birthday. We've chosen to stay at home. And so what we do, our tradition, our birthday tradition at home, is to let the birthday person pick the meal that they want to eat for that day. They get to pick the dinner meal, and they get to pick their cake. I'm always carrot cake. My husband's always a chocolate cake with chocolate icing. Our kids vary. They mix it up a little bit, but they get to pick the dinner. And so what we do is we have dinner, we have the cake, and we sing happy birthday. And then after the dinner and the cake, we sit by the fire. Now, most of us have birthdays sort of in the season of fall and winter. So it's easy to sit by the fire, to make a nice fire, and we'll open up presents by the fire and hang out for a while they open up the cards and the presents that they have. And that has been a really fun birthday tradition for our family. Last day of school could be a tradition around special events. So sometimes we'll go out and we'll get an ice cream, or maybe now that the kids are older, they would rather go out and get a latte from Starbucks or a grande caramel macchiato, whatever it is that they want. So we try to mark these special occasions with a tradition. So we've got vacations, we've got meals, we've got birthdays. The fourth way that we can develop family traditions in our house with our kids is during bedtime rituals. When my kids were really little, every evening we would read a book, we would say our prayers, we would sing some songs, and then they would go to sleep. And I had 4 songs that I sang, and I usually sang them every night, and there was one song that I would sing last. So if I mixed up the songs, if I did a new song, they would always know when I was getting ready to leave, because I would always sing the same song last. Now, I didn't start out planning that, it's just the way it evolved. And so they had a routine and a regimen. I know so many moms who give up the bedtime ritual too early. When their kids hit 10 or 11, the moms are tired. Let's face it, we as moms, we get tired. We've got multiple kids, our days are busy, maybe we work full time, maybe we're running around with all our kids' activities, and by bedtime, we are just empty. But I want to encourage you not to give up that bedtime ritual too soon. Because even as kids get older, some of the things will change, and that's just the way traditions are. They change and adjust as our family changes and adjusts, and that's fine. Maybe you're not reading the story together anymore, but we went from simple stories to reading novels together before bed, and we did that for quite a while. But I would just say kids love, don't we all love just debriefing at the end of the day? That was really when I heard from my kids and, what's going on, what's really on their mind. Now that they're in high school, I don't really have a bedtime ritual as much with them. Sometimes they are up past me doing their homework and their schoolwork, but I always, before I go to bed, give them a hug and tell them I love them, because I still want bedtime to have some sort of a ritual to that, for them to know mom loves me, dad loves me, you're gonna get a hug before you go to bed. And if it happens that they are settling into bed just as I am, I'll sit and chat with them for a few minutes and sort of just hang out for a few minutes and debrief on their day, because there's something comforting about saying goodnight to one another. So bedtime can be a fantastic opportunity to really connect with our kids, and that's really what these traditions are all about. It's really about connecting with our family and having those relationships and those bonds grow and be strong. Holidays is my 5th way I want to share with you about how we can build family traditions. And holidays lend themselves so easily to traditions, and you can pick your holiday. Maybe St. Patrick's Day is your favorite holiday. Go for it. Make a family tradition. Maybe it's Valentine's Day. Whatever the holiday is that you love, maybe it's 4th of July, develop a tradition. For 4th of July, we love to make a flag cake. It's a simple cake with white frosting and strawberries and blueberries. It looks like the American flag, and that is something fun that we love to make every year for 4th of July. But Christmas and Easter for us are very easy holidays where we tend to have traditions. Our meals tend to be the same, but also our rhythm tends to be the same. Christmas Eve, we make a spaghetti meatball recipe. That was my grandfather's recipe. And my grandfather made it when my mom was young. My mom made it when we were young. Now we're making it when my kids are young. So it's been this tradition throughout the generations. And on Christmas Eve, it connects me with my extended family, because literally I have extended family living in different places around the world. And on Christmas Eve, from East Coast to West Coast to overseas, they are eating that spaghetti and meatball recipe. So it's a fun connection for me, even with my siblings. We also tend on Christmas Eve, our rhythm tends to be to have our meal, go to church, and then our kids get to open one present on Christmas Eve. And it's always the same thing. It's always a pair of pajamas. Now, actually, my parents started this tradition when we were young, and I didn't realize how brilliant they were until I had kids. Because what, of course, do kids want to do? They're so excited to get this new outfit, and then guess what? They want to go put it on, and then they're ready for bed. So I thought my parents were brilliant. I didn't realize how brilliant they were until we started that tradition. And I'm pretty sure my kids will do that tradition too with their family. So that's a fun thing. On Christmas morning, we tend to wake up and do our stockings first, then we have our breakfast, then we open the gifts under the tree, then we have our lunch, then we hang out with, when the kids were little it was toys, and now it's more gadgets and technology. But find a rhythm. What do you like to do at Christmas? What does that holiday look like with you, with your extended family, with your own family, your core family? And find a rhythm to make that special. Easter's the same way for us. When the kids were little, always, of course, an Easter egg hunt and the same meal that we have, going to the church service. And so you can find ways, whether it's Christmas and Easter, whether it's Hanukkah and Passover, to take those holidays and put together a tradition that's going to be fun for you and your family. So those are the 5 areas of traditions. It's vacations, it's meals, it's birthdays and special events, it's bedtime rituals, and it's holidays. But how do you get started? Well, there are several ways that you can get started with these traditions. One, borrow from your past. I borrowed from my past with the whole pajama, giving away the pajamas at Christmas Eve. Borrow from your past. What did you or your husband do in your past that was fun, that you want to incorporate in your own family? Make up new ones. Sometimes you want to do something new. What we have done that's new is the day after Thanksgiving, we go and we cut down a Christmas tree. Now, I didn't do that growing up. We just went to the local garden center and bought it off the lot. But it's been super fun for our kids to go find a Christmas tree. There's usually hot chocolate to buy. Sometimes we take the dog and we walk around looking for that perfect Christmas tree. Finally, we saw it down and haul it back home. It's a big day event, and it's been a really fun tradition for us. So make a new one. Sometimes you won't know that it's a tradition until you stop doing it and people say, hey, why aren't we doing that anymore? So think about what you're already doing and what you're already enjoying that might become a tradition. And also be flexible. Try a lot of different activities and see what sticks for your family. And you don't have to hold on to a tradition if it's outgrown its purpose and its season. There are going to be seasons for each tradition because your family changes, you change, maybe you move, maybe you're not into it anymore, but it still is a memory maker. And so if it's a memory maker for 3 or 4 years, that serves its purpose. It bonds you together. It gives you something in common. It creates those memories that make you the family unit that you are. So I want to share with you a final story. You know how my brother and his wife had that cheese ball that no one wanted to eat, but they had to have at Thanksgiving every year? Well, his kids grew up, and his oldest daughter, Sarah, moved over to England, and she married a British man. And so every year at Thanksgiving, they got together. Of course, they don't celebrate Thanksgiving in England, but they got together with other expats, other couples that had maybe married an American, or other Americans living there, and all of these expats would get together on Thanksgiving and they would do a Thanksgiving meal. Well, guess what Sarah wanted to make? She wanted to make her mom's cheese ball. And the irony of it all was it calls for Old English cheese, which they don't even make in England, go figure. And so her mom had to mail her to England Old English cheese so she could make this cheese ball. You know, that family tradition was really important to Sarah. She was away from her family and it was nostalgic for her. It reminded her of home. It made her feel connected to her family. And so the traditions that you create at some point might be even more important and more valuable to your children than they are to you. So I hope that you have fun, not only planning new traditions, but discovering the traditions that you already have.